Welcome to Safeword by Fear and Greed. I'm Sean Aylmer. This is essentially a business podcast. It is, after all, by the Fear and Greed team responsible for Australia's most popular business podcast. But in Safeword, the business link gets a little tenuous at times. In fact, we tend to head down various rabbit holes and some pretty uncomfortable places, hence the name of the podcast, Safeword. Anyway, every week I'm joined by my colleagues from Fear and Greed. Adam Lang, a man that's never let it never be said, a man of detail and of follow-up, a man of words. Adam, good morning.
Good morning, Sean.
Michael Thompson, a man of fewer words, unless there's a high horse to be climbed. He's very able at that. A man who seems to think that wearing pyjamas during the day is okay. Michael, good morning.
Oh, Sean, there's so much to refute from your introduction, but good morning. I'll start there.
And I'm Sean Aylmer. I'm basically the tag-along whose role is to make the other two look sensible. And to be honest, that ain't that easy, really. We normally start the show, Mickey, with a bit of audience feedback. What have we heard this week?
We do have one, Sean, but before I get to that, I just wanted to make a very quick mention of the fact that Safeword isn't going to be available as part of the Fear and Greed playlist for too much longer. So if you're enjoying the podcast, if you like Safeword once a week, you can now find it on its own. It is out there listed as Safeword by Fear and Greed on your podcast platform. So search for it, hit follow, hit subscribe, and it now comes out every Thursday there. So you can get it even early. You don't even have to wait till Sunday. But Sean, you asked about feedback, and I do have one. It's a short and sweet one today. And it's from a listener by the name of Kaz, and I'm assuming that's short for Karen, though I suppose it doesn't really matter what it's short for, does it?
Caroline, Karen, Kathy, Cara, go on.
I thought we left you being a nitpicker behind in last week's episode. It just feels like...
Just encouraged me last time round.
We can just assume that it's probably Karen. I don't mean to kind of lay down the law.
Is there anything actually in the feedback that suggests it is Karen apart from Kaz?
Anyway, she says, I'm a new listener to Safeword. I stumbled across it, which is fantastic. We love stumblers. And she says, I've now binged the last 4 episodes, which...
Wow.
I think it's fantastic. And so what Kaz has done has found Safeword in its new home now as a separate podcast away from the main Fear and Greed stable. So she's found it and subscribed. In fact, I don't even know whether I should be saying she. I don't even know whether Kaz could be short for a man's name.
Like, you're on board, aren't you? You're on board.
Oh, now I'm going to have to email her back, him or her back. So, sorry, Kaz, I know this sounds kind of creepy, but...
Are you male or female?
Maybe I'll just start with what's your full name. We'll just see where that goes.
From there. Well, a lovely piece of feedback from Kaz. Good on them. Thank you very much for that. Now, of course, we're called Safeword because sometimes we go down paths like we've just done then where we really want to get out of that conversation and we need a safe word to help us out. Every week we have a new one, a Damski. Surely you've got something on the plate for a safe word.
I got a suggestion. So in line with your introduction theme, I'll never let it not be said. There's a little bit of a story behind this one. You know, working from home during those COVID times, well, some of them are still around, of course. Working from home brings about lots of different things, and rarely do you have to sort of suit up or clobber up and wear your normal work uniform.
Oh, I know where we're going with this. Go on.
Look, I just got a drone shot this week, surreptitiously entering into the Michael Thompson backyard, he of the proud manicured lawn. Michael was on a conference call with you and I, Sean, at this time, allegedly. He was outside, which is great, but he'd elected to stand on the trampoline and bounce and walk around in the confined area
when
of
he's
the
talking to
trampoline.
us.
Yeah.
In our ops meeting.
And wearing a dressing gown. Now, I've often wondered why we weren't able to, virtually meet during these sessions. I like to display my spreadsheets and...
Oh, hello.
Oh, there's a euphemism we don't use very often, isn't it?
I like to display my spreadsheets. Oh, yeah. Ooh, it's getting hot in here. What's the safe word? Come on.
We need the safe word.
We do. Trampoline is my suggestion for the safe word.
In our regular ops meeting, the three of us hold twice a week, We're sitting at, I'm sitting at my computer, and Dembski, I'm sure you are.
Yes.
Michael's bouncing on his trampoline.
Yeah, presumably using a hands-free set, holding the mobile phone in front of him, just jauntily strolling around on the trampoline in his dressing gown.
Explain that, Mickey.
Are you two done?
Explain that.
Are you done?
Not by a long shot.
May I please respond? Because there is so much to clear. And I knew this was coming from the moment, Sean, that you introduced me, however you did, something about wear of daytime pajamas or something. Okay. Number one. I was not wearing pajamas. I was wearing normal clothes, and I just happened to have a dressing gown on over my regular clothes because
Of course.
I got a little bit cold.
There's no way of proving this, Michael, but do go on.
Well, I mean, Adam, I think he's doing a pretty good job skewering himself at the moment. He's just admitted he was wearing a dressing gown over his normal clothes. Continue.
Okay, number two. I was not on the trampoline for the duration of our operations meeting. Yes, I was on there very briefly at the end. But the problem is, I don't know about you guys, but I am a pacer during calls. I cannot stay in one place.
Yep.
And on this particular occasion, my pacing took me outside, around the house a few times, and suddenly I found myself on the trampoline. It was for no more than about 60 seconds.
So Michael, I have a question. Has your trampoline got one of those guards around it that are really difficult to get in? You know, that it has a slit that the
like the
kids
net,
slip through?
yes, a big net around and the zip on the side. Yes.
So whilst on this conversation, you somehow climbed onto the trampoline, got through that little slit, which inevitably you end up on your ass because you can't just get through it because it pushes you through. So you end up on your behind.
Now, Michael, can I just ask a quick question here? I know quick questions are rare for me, but the pacing, the inspiration for the pacing, was it brought about by some of the subject matter, some anguish, some things that you didn't want to unleash your vigor on, but you just had to process a few thoughts?
Actually, it was. I got really frustrated by the end of that call the other day. And that's why normally I don't pace that far. And that's why I was
pushed you to it.
You essentially did. And Sean, just to address your point of falling over, I'm going to be very tactful.
Dexterous?
No, I'm younger. I'm younger. I'm more kind of nimble. So I am able to climb onto a trampoline without, as you put it, falling on one's ass during that exercise.
Still gets a whack in while he's giving some feedback, doesn't he?
And can I just have a quick little shout out to the absolute...
To the high horse you're on?
No, God.
He's climbing higher. He's climbing.
This is a Shetland pony compared to the horse I'm about to climb onto. No, I just want to say, how about the ultimate betrayal?
Oh.
Because you did not fly a drone into my backyard.
I
would have seen a drone.
I didn't.
It was a member of my own household that walked past.
Your wife.
Yes. Well, there's only one person here that's old enough to actually figure out how to work a camera. And then I just, after the ops meeting, I walked back inside and she's just kind of chuckling away to herself. And I knew something had happened. And here it is. I find out what it was. And it was just complete and utter betrayal. But also, I've got to say, I didn't care that you saw me on the trampoline. I did not care that you saw me in my dressing gown or that my hair wasn't done or anything like that, which I would normally be quite concerned about. I was most upset about the fact that this photo was taken and my lawn looks terrible because my lawnmower broke a couple of weeks ago. Got no way to mow the lawn. The oxalis is taking over. Under the trampoline, all the lawn has died. There's kids' toys everywhere. It looks like a hovel. So really, I am quite ashamed. Yeah.
The oxalis. What is oxalis?
It's a weed, and it grows from like a little nut kind of thing, and so it's very hard. You can't kind of weed it manually because it just snaps off.
Trampoline. I'm calling the Safeword. Too boring. Much too boring.
Hang on.
Lawn porn is okay for some, but come on.
You asked the question. Now I know how Adam feels.
He lured you into his trap.
Ah.
Michael, I must say the lawn, it probably wasn't your finest moment. So I understand your sentiment. I still think we should publish the photograph to the website. So,
Absolutely. Let's take a vote. Let's see majority
it's a yes
rules.
from me, Sean.
It's a yes from me.
Well, my vote's worth 3, and it's a no from me, so it's 3.
All right,
That's
we'll blur
3-2.
your face out, Michael. We'll pixelate your face.
No. Keep my face. Blur the lawn. Blur the lawn.
Pixelate the lawn.
Yep.
Hey, now, one thing so trampoline's our safe word. One thing I just want to bring up. So it was a dressing gown or a shave coat. Now, part of the reason I'm so interested in this is that there's quite a few documentaries around on streaming services at the moment around Playboy. And, of course, Hugh Hefner was a man in a shave coat or in a dressing gown. I'm not really sure.
Oh, I thought it was just a velour dressing gown. It was pretty awful, no matter what it was.
Well, I worked with a guy. I sat next to a guy. He worked at the Telegraph of London, and he interviewed Hugh Hefner maybe 5 or 6 years before Hefner died, and he put it to him straight out. He said, "What is it with the dressing gown?" And Hugh Hefner said, "It is total marketing. You know, we're Playboy. We want to be thinking about people being undressed and in pajamas and things like that, or out of pajamas. It is total marketing. And to be honest, I get sick of wearing it," which I think is a good story. But the point is, shave coat or dressing gown, Michael?
Well, okay, number one, I'm going to have to remind you again, and I'm sorry to do this because I know it's something you're a bit sensitive about, but I don't know what a shave coat is because I'm only in my 30s, and maybe people stopped wearing them in the last century.
Well, I don't know what it is either, to be honest. Like, I'm serious. I have no idea what a shave coat is.
Well, that sounds cooler than a dressing gown, but really, it is a dressing gown.
It's just like bathroom couture.
Very Mad Men.
It is a straight up dressing gown. It is like a like that kind of polar fleecy kind of dressing. It cannot get more dressing gown than what I was wearing. So, and the navy color, I've always had one of those.
So Adam, do you wear a dressing gown ever?
No.
Me neither.
No, but can I, before we explore the range of shaving coats and business ideas, can I bring up a different business topic?
Yeah. Let's cut this one off.
I've got the trampoline ready. Go on.
This is a business that Michael has mentioned, but not by name. But it also came to our door recently. So we've had COVID in the family, isolation, and a little surprise arrived at the door, which was this box of cakes from Michael and his wife, Sian, which is incredibly lovely. Now, in it, and Michael has also, I think, confessed on this podcast that really no one should work from the savouries toward the dessert. You work from the dessert backwards when you eat. And so Michael has something of a sweet tooth. We got these biscuits that were just incredible. One of them was called a funfetti, which is so far Lara and the boys' favourite. But Michael, you've mentioned this business does a 1 kilogram funfetti cake, and that you and your family have made your way through one.
Yeah, in a couple of days.
How was it?
It was fantastic. Look, it's just a small business that delivers these incredibly kind of decadent biscuits. And yeah, you can get the 1 kilo version, and we used it as a birthday cake, and I can highly recommend it. Like, I love eating things by the kilogram. I've actually just realised this is a thing that I like.
This is your quest for decimalisation around the world again?
That's right. Forget a kind of ounces or anything like that. Bring me food by the kilo. And one of my finest achievements was eating at a restaurant in Canberra, the 1 kilogram steak with a double serve of chips and salad and a beer as well. And I managed to get the whole lot down. Yep. And got my name up on the board on the wall. And I'm not a particularly large person.
No.
And so that amount of food, it got to that point.
Astounding.
When you eat something and you can actually feel it settling in your throat about halfway down your neck, because it physically cannot actually go any further. and that's what I was dealing with on that particular evening. But I got it down.
Okay.
It didn't stay down, but I got it down, and that was the main thing. So.
Okay, trampoline.
Yeah, trampoline. Neither of these are sort of health-riddled business ideas, but Sean, in terms of...
Very generous of Michael and Sian, though. Adam.
Incredible. And, it lifted everyone's spirits out of the COVID isolation we're in. But, Sean, Michael's quest for decimalisation, you've got a favourite number 2, right?
I do. 3. I've always been a fan of 3. I've
Is it your good Catholic upbringing?
The Holy Trinity, the triangular.
I like it. The Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. 3 men I admire most. Left on the train for the coast.
Okay,
The
we're about
day
to breach copyright
the
here.
music died.
Any more than that, we've got to pay licensing fees. We do not want to do that. Trampoline.
Don won't care. Yes, I do. It's funny. I just do everything in 3s. So, when I was a kid and I was nervous, I'd touch, I might touch my face and I'd have to do it 3 times. Michael.
Sorry, you paused for too long after the word touch.
Trampoline.
Michael saw a gap there and he went for it.
Let me use another example. When I played a lot of cricket as a kid, and I'd always tap the bat 3 times or 6 times or 9 times before the bowler bowled the ball. Everything
Okay,
was
so
in.
multiples of 3.
Yeah, multiples of 3 are fine.
Got it.
Multiples of 3 are fine. But to this day, when I'm nervous or when I want something to happen, sometimes you just want it to happen, you want it to work out. I just have to do everything in 3s. So if I am sending an email to someone that I'm really, it might be a client or something like that,
Yep.
I might often check 3 times. I know it went the first time. Or actually, no, you know what I do? When I set the alarm in the morning, we get up very early. Not so much now because I'm more relaxed about it, but certainly in the early days, I always had to check the alarm 3 times.
There's no judgment here. I check the alarm so many times.
Didn't you have 3 different alarms, Michael?
Yes. Yep. And I would have multiple alarms set on those individual alarms. So, but this was getting up at 3:30 in the morning, and you're not going to risk that.
Actually, on this topic, Michael, during the week, you were explaining something to me, which I thought was really interesting. Of course, the election campaign has kicked off, and you were explaining that in your days in Radio Land, every single day an election campaign kind of sounds the same. You may get big announcements, but they're mostly very staged and set up for sort of 6 p.m. news and things like that. Whenever someone would ring in from the field and say, hey, I'm following, be it Abbott or Turnbull, Rudd, Gillard, someone like that, you'd always say, what's new today? Anything new, anything a bit different, because it is very vanilla. And this, of course, Michael, was in relation to Anthony Albanese's day one gaffe, not knowing the unemployment rate and the official cash rate.
And every time, if the reporter was out there, you would ask them, have you had any protesters? Did anyone kind of fluff their lines? Did anything go wrong? And you would basically cling to any little bit. A political campaign is very tightly managed, and during the election, you really see that playing out every day, where everyone is exactly where they're supposed to be, all of a sudden, until they're not, until there is a protest to come in, or until a journalist asks something that just catches the politician off guard. And it doesn't happen that often with the leaders. It's usually with the other candidates, the ones who are challenging a sitting member, or even just a less experienced MP. But I mean, it's not very often that you see the opposition leader, who is a very experienced politician, get caught out on something really as kind of basic as the unemployment rate. And look, you don't want to get into the politics of it on either side, but really, I feel a certain kind of sympathy for someone who's caught in the spotlight like Anthony Albanese was, asked about the unemployment rate, asked about the cash rate, not knowing either. And you can just imagine what was going through his head at that moment, as soon as he was asked. And God, I actually felt really sorry for him, because it's just like getting put on the spot, under pressure. Your mind goes blank sometimes, and I felt for him.
But what if he didn't know? So this is an economy that in the first few days of campaigning, the number one topic that's been on the agenda is the economy. A safe pair of hands is how Morrison is framing it. It's all about the economy. Surely Labor knew that. Yeah. Surely he should have been prepped for it.
Oh, yeah. If his team was doing its job, he would have had that data. But I'm just saying, what if it actually just went out of his head? People can have lapses where something that they know just disappears. It's happened for me, just all of a sudden, where you forget the most obvious detail.
Someone's name, for example. and it's your son.
I think it was, look, I agree with you to a point, but I'm fairly blunt on this one. For 3 years, he's been the opposition leader. He has been swimming around in this data for 3 years. So the first thing is not knowing, unforgivable on day one of a campaign trail. Number two, fudging it, coming up with numbers that were wrong, having to be rescued by one of his colleagues with the right data. And lastly, coming back and saying, oh, look, I made a mistake and I'm owning it. It's like, I don't think you did in the moment. You're kind of backpedaling now. And I can understand someone making a gaffe or forgetting. He's had so much time to prepare. It's day one of the campaign. He's been calling for this election. And like you've said, Sean and Michael, economic credibility is a critical point for the electorate. And he just dropped the bundle on two really important statistics and things that matter to people.
But mind you, there's been times we've all been in situations. I remember once I was giving a speech and Stephen Kakoulis, who is our economics guru, who has his show every Monday morning on Fear and Greed, he and I were panellists and there was a third panellist, and someone from the audience asked us a question. And I obviously wasn't concentrating on the question. And towards the end of the question, I realised they were addressing it to me.
Oh, dear.
And I don't even know what the question was, let alone the answer. I mean, actually, I vaguely knew the question, but I had no idea. I just remember sitting there and just sort of under my breath going, Kirk, help me.
And I bet he did.
And Stephen said, look, Sean, do you mind if I take this one? No, I don't
Bless
mind
him.
at all, Stephen. Off you go. And, of course, Stephen is a genius when it comes to economics, and he had a brilliant answer. But we've all been in those times where it's like a lapse of concentration. Unfortunately, for Anthony Albanese, it's day one of a campaign. But surely you two have had moments where you just think, I have no clue how to answer this question.
Oh, yeah.
I have.
Go on, Adam.
Generally just said, I don't know.
You're too honest. You're too nice, Adam.
Yeah, well, no, I think through experience you learn, just don't, when you're in a hole, stop digging. So don't make it worse.
You know, the place where people seem to get caught out most with that kind of thing is on Wheel of Fortune.
Sorry.
Wow.
Really, Michael?
Yeah.
Do tell.
Well, you might not have seen it because neither of you
Baby John Burgess.
Because neither of you like fun, but earlier this year, it was only a couple of months ago even, and it's all out of the US because I don't think Wheel of Fortune's actually on in Australia anymore.
Not anymore, no.
And just where
So you watch American Wheel of Fortune?
No, it's because there were clips go around online when there is a really big Wheel of Fortune fail
moment.
Oh, I see.
One that happened just, I think, earlier this week, where there were the clue that they had to guess was another feather in your cap, was the phrase, and all they were missing was the C for cap. Everything else on the screen, with the exception of, I think, like the I for in. And
got a sense about where this is heading.
Yeah, and so it's basically said another feather in your something AP. And there were so many guesses. It took them 8 turns with 10 attempts in those 8 turns in order to get it. There was another feather in your map. Then there was another feather in your hat initially. Then another feather in your lap. Then another feather.
Oh my God.
It just went on and on and on. And clearly, these are people who kind of surely they would know that phrase. And they even said it afterwards. Yes, I know the phrase, but it just went out of my head.
Yeah.
So this is like a roundabout way, and roundabout because it's Wheel of Fortune, way of defending not just Anthony Albanese, because I'm not getting into the politics of it, but anyone who just has
lapses of memory,
a mental blank
anyway.
at the worst possible moment, because it does happen, and politicians are human too.
Have you an example, Mickey? I can imagine you trying to work your way out of it as opposed to Adamski, who's authentic enough to say, I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't think you'd say that, Michael.
No, I wouldn't admit defeat ever. And so it's kind of more of a diversion. You try and change the subject. And I'm surprised that Albo didn't actually try that and just say, look, we all know the unemployment rate, but have you noticed how big that bird over there is? Yeah, or something like that. Obviously, you'd have to come up with a better diversion than that. And there's a chance he could have gotten out of that.
But maybe that is one of the things about Albo is that he isn't as good at diverting questions as pretty much every other politician. Politicians are great. Asking a question, all he had to say is, we all know the unemployment rate is very, very low. And that's what matters, under a Labor government, it would blah, blah, blah.
Look at us. We could be communications advisors. You know what? Safeword could end up being a comms... Actually, no politician is going to affiliate themselves with a podcast called Safeword, are they?
Or Fear and Greed, for that matter.
Actually, that's a very good point. Carry on.
I want to bring up something. We always end the show talking about our recommendations for the week, what people should go out and watch and see and view. Not that this was your recommendation a week ago, Mickey, but you did talk about a particular streaming show during the week, which I went and watched the first episode.
Yes.
It is horrendous.
I know exactly. Oh, but hang on. Did you say horrendous?
Horrendous. Is it cake? Oh my God. Really?
I never said it was good. I just said it was worth watching. No, so the premise is simple, that these really good bakers are baking lifelike cakes, and then the judges have to decide whether what they're looking at is a cake or the real life object, and then they win money.
Can the bakers fool the judges by doing a cake so like a taco or a burger?
Oh, back onto your pronunciation of what did you say again? Sorry, Sean.
Taco.
Oh, dear.
It's not in a car, Sean.
Taco.
You walked right into that one, didn't you?
Oh, that hurts.
Got him.
Anyway, it's about, there's a taco and there's 5 tacos there, and the judges have got to decide from a distance of about 10 foot which one is cake and which ones are real tacos.
Yeah. And one of them, just to confuse things, is a taco. And you just... and so you can imagine that. But no, I never once said that it was a great show. I just said it was...
Said it's worth watching?
I just said it is the it show at the moment that everyone was watching. And generally, kind of the consensus is that the show is kind of pretty awful, but that it's worth watching just for a bit of novelty. Can I ask you about another TV show? And this is getting very unbusinessy, but...
unlike the rest of the podcast so far today. Go on.
Hang on. Have we covered anything related to business yet?
Politics.
Well,
no
the
business.
funfetti business.
That was just an opportunity to talk about eating a 1 kilogram cake. It feels... Okay, maybe we can bring it back with a little bit of business towards the end. Maybe not. But Bridgerton, Sean.
Yeah.
There was a new season of Bridgerton. And so the background to this, obviously, is that the last season was quite raunchy. And if I recall correctly, you told me this at the time, that you watched Bridgerton while you were visiting your mother.
My 90-year-old mother.
In the Central West town of Orange. And you sat down and you watched Bridgerton, and for most part, it's pretty good. And about episode 6, I think, in season 1, is just full-on kind of pretty much pornography. And you sat there and watched the whole thing with your mum.
She was glued to it.
And were you?
Sorry, Mum.
And
those awkward moments, and I'm sure my kids, do the same when we're watching certain TV shows, and it's basically full-on sex scenes, and you're sitting there with your mother, and it's like, would you like a cup of tea, Mum? Or just trying to avoid the subject of what's happening right in front of you.
I had one of those moments. I was, funnily enough, also in Orange. I don't know why. All seems to happen in the New South Wales
happens in Orange.
New South Wales Central West. But I was visiting my grandparents on just me. I've ducked over for the weekend from uni. This is obviously a few years ago, and we thought, we'll just see what's on TV, and we ended up watching Titanic. which was all well and good until you get to that scene in the car with the steamy handprint, down the back of the thing. And I'm just sitting there between my grandparents, and I would have been 19 at the time, and they would have been, 80 or so.
Oh.
And I'm just going, this is really uncomfortable.
Oh, my toes are curling up for you here.
Oh God, it was pretty bad, and I suspect that someone did get up to go and make a cup of tea at the time, just because you're right, that is the only thing you can divert with at that time, and also people of a certain age love a cup of tea, so it's a fairly good diversion.
I'm a big cup of tea fan, especially when I'm watching near porn with my mother. I'd much prefer to be making a cup of tea.
Trampoline.
I think trampoline the whole show at the moment. I don't think we're going to get to business at all today. I mean, Adamski, you want to talk a little bit about calendar spam? Is that got anything to do with business?
Well, look, I think the item of calendar spam might have to be left for another time. Definitely a business issue.
All right.
It's not a business issue. It's just you driving me nuts with your constant responses to all of my calendar invites.
Michael, this isn't a bicker podcast.
Oh, no. Sorry, I've got a gripe, right? And maybe it's aimed at you, Adam, but I don't think so.
Maybe.
You know the people who have to respond to every email and have to respond to every text.
That would be me.
And when you say thanks, they come back with thanks. No. I said thanks to end the text conversation. You don't have to come back and say thanks to be the nicest guy in the room. Same with the emails.
Well, Sean, you say thanks as in THX, and I ask in a business environment, is there any room for an abbreviation like that? And I don't know whether there is.
No, definitely not.
WDYM.
WDYM.
What do you mean? Is that are you putting an acronym in, Sean?
Come on. Me and my texting, real good.
It is great.
I'm going to get to emojis soon.
GFY. Yep.
Go find yourself?
Yep, go find yourself. That's what I mean. Carry on.
That's it.
Trampoline.
I think that'll call it for the day. Adamski, once again, a wonderful contribution.
Thank you, Sean.
Mickey T, okay. Well, no, you got us going with this shave coat. Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anytime.
MVP again.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I can't award myself MVP every time, so it does come down to the two of you to do it.
That's right. So, Adam, you're MVP for the day.
No, I think what Michael meant was one of us has to award him MVP.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. That's why I just awarded it to you.
Oh, thanks.
A quick recommendation for the next week, streaming, reading, etc. Last week for me, it was Jonathan Franzen's Crossroads. Mm-hmm. This week for me, do not stream Is It Cake? That's my recommendation. Adamski, you got something for us?
Formula One inspired the Netflix series. Awesome.
What's it called?
Drive to Survive.
Yep, great show. Mickey?
Well, look, I would recommend that people go and watch Is It Cake? So I think
it's like a null recommendation. One for,
I think
one
you
against.
and I have just cancelled out each other's recommendations here, Sean. So
go watch the F1 show. That's what that means.
Michael bringing competition even to the everyday chat in Safeword.
That's right. I'm a very competitive person.
Thank you very much for listening to Safeword by Fear and Greed. Michael, Adam, thank you. Don't forget to hit follow on Safeword so you get a new episode every week. Tell your friends, your family, your colleagues, everyone. I'm Sean Aylmer. Have a great day.